Now that we're not just getting it in here, now we're going to make sure it stays in here and here, so we can move on with it, and wherever we go, it goes with us. Okay, it doesn't just stay on the page. And welcome back to The Angry Teacher. I'm Richard Was, The Angry Teacher, and today we're going to be looking at SQ3R, or Square. What is it and where it will take you. If this is your first time here, welcome aboard. Join the family. Hit the subscribe button. If you've been here before, you know I love y'all. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the love. Let's get into the video. So, Square, SQ3R, is basically a strategy that we use to teach reading skills, to amp up the skills that students need to be able to understand a passage or something that they've come to learn to read, something that they need to read. And it could move from a short passage to a longer one, but this is just a skill that automatically becomes a part of their psyche, and they start using it throughout their education, if you will. So let's get into it. The S in Square is for survey, and this is basically to the purpose of the S, or the survey in reading, is to look at the context, or to have a bigger picture before you start reading, looking at why, to have an expectation. Why would the writer write this? Where would it be going? And how am I doing this? I'm looking at the titles. I'm looking at the pictures that they've provided. I'm looking at the who the writer is, to know if there's any credibility there. I'm just surveying. I'm just eyeing it down and seeing if any of this makes sense before I actually read it, so I can have an expectation. I can kind of scan and tell where things are going in the passage. So every time I read, this is what I'm looking at. This is what I'm going to do to kind of give a heads up to where this is going. So in my head, while I'm reading, I'm playing it out. Is this exactly where I thought it was going to go? All right, that's the S. Here's what teachers can do for the S. One thing I do is, like, when we're going over anything that we're reading as a group, as a class, I have them read the title, read the author, and then we stop. And then we break it down there. We look around. Is there anything that we need to pay attention to? Do we know anything about the time period? Do we know anything about the poet or the author? Do we know anything about the subtext? There's usually some subtext there. Is there anything that comes to mind? So while we're going to be reading, we're building up what we think we know about a topic. A lot of the stuff I give they don't really have pictures, but you know, if they're there, we look at that and see if we can ascertain anything from that as well. So teachers, that's what you can do. Have them stop after they've read the title. Don't just jump into it. A lot of kids ignore the title, which is weird to me because it's the largest font there, but they ignore the title and then start reading. But we stop them down, we shut them down. You got to read the title, you got to read who this is by, because that may give us some insight to what we're going to read. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell for the next dope Angry Teacher video. You know it, every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all weekend long, you'll have a video to watch, something to learn, something to enjoy. Check them out. The Q in Square. This is basically questioning what you think you know about a topic, posing questions, coming up with questions about the topic, about the passage, about the author, before we get into it. This is all before reading. To see if, you know, to kind of broaden your familiarity with it and figure out, hey, wait a minute, I know about drugs, I know about car chases, I know about movies, so let me see if this is going to answer any of those questions that I may still have, or is it going to pander more to what I already know. So the Q gets us to reflect on what we know about a topic, right? So here's what teachers can do. They can ask the question. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to be a whole different thing. Just basically ask, what do we know about the topic? I do that a lot. Once again, when we cover anything we're reading as a class, after we've done the title, is there anything that comes to mind? What do we know about this? Do you think that it could be about that? Is it a sarcastic title? All these things have to do with what we know about a topic. Question it. We're moving into the 3 R's right now of the Square, or SQ3R. One of them is for during the reading, and this is basically reading. Just read. This is to focus your ideas. So while you're reading, you're revising what you thought if there's a revision that needs to happen, and you're plotting ahead. So you're doing two things while you're reading all or part of the passage. If I'm reading larger, well, what teachers can do is, if we're reading a large passage, I kind of stop every so often, like after a paragraph or two paragraphs, to kind of spot check, to make sure they know what's going on. And I question them with a basic, what's the main idea, what's going on here? Or you can kind of pander to their questions. You're using both the survey and the questions that you had from the SQ, and kind of ask them, do we have to revise anything? Were or preconceived ideas of the topic, of the title, was it on point? All right, so you're doing that while we're reading. The shorter things, I wait until the end, and then we kind of go over it. And then if they're reading it, if I have them reading it, then I read it a second time or a third time, and then we do that main idea spot check right there, and then we just focus and make sure that we're revising our ideas of the topics that we thought we had, as well as moving on with new ideas and new topics. The second R, and this is after we've read, is basically reciting. So after they've read, this is to make sure that you are going to learn now. Now we're not just reading the content. Now that we're not just getting it in here, now we're going to make sure it stays in here and here, so we can move on with it, and wherever we go, it goes with us. Okay, it doesn't just stay on the page. So with that said, teachers can have kids share out. Once again, what's the main idea? What does the poet want us to get from this? Or what I do sometimes in my class discussions, most times, is ask questions from the assignment. So they don't know that it's from the assignment, but when they see the assignment after we've discussed it, they already know the answers because we've talked about it. So you've already planned with the end in mind, so you have all the questions for whatever assignment you're giving. So you kind of pose those questions piecemeal, or an entire, all of them, if you will, but you post them, and then you kind of ask individually one, and then one question branches to another, and so on and so forth, and so the discussion goes. And then when the kids get that assignment, they see, whoa, we've already answered this, so I know the answer. I feel confident answering these questions. With that said, after we've read something and we've discussed the title and we've read it and I've read it for them or read to them, I have them sit quietly, and then I have them write whatever comes to mind. Now we're revising our ideas. Now we're thinking. Now we're questioning. We're putting all that together, and we're just annotating the crap out of this piece of document, because now I have to learn something from what I've just read. So they're writing it, they're breaking it down, they're ripping it apart, and they're sometimes you hear them talking to themselves, and sometimes, once again, in discussion, I will ask them so they can tell me verbally. So it becomes a part, it becomes cemented in their psyche for that passage. So the last R, once again, after reading, this is to basically review. What did I get from this? And this is where they're sitting down and they're writing. They're responding to the questions I've posed by writing. And I allow open binder exam, because learning is a process, it's a journey. So they're learning to go back to what they've written. Did it make sense? Should I adjust how I annotate for next time? All of this is the back and forth thing, and they're using their text, they're using their notes, and they're responding. So all of this is coming together as they review. Did I learn anything from this title? From this topic? Is this title something that I had to adjust what I knew, or I already knew this stuff, but I'm just doing this for a grade? Or it added something new to what I thought I already knew, or what the heck, I didn't know crap about this and now I know something new. So that's what review does. It kind of helps them refocus and think about the next time. How do I approach this topic when I see it again? All right. So those are the obviously what teachers can do is give an assignment, give something that they have to write, because thinkers write, writers think. So it would be better for them to, now that I'm on my own, it's the you do part of the class and I'm figuring stuff out on my own, I have to go back to my text, go back to my annotations, as well as write something down to prove that I know what they were discussing in class and I wasn't a part of. Or even while I was discussing, and some kids have done that. We've discussed something and then they go back and then they realize while they were working that they had to adjust some of their ideas or just adjust their answers. So those are the different elements of SQ3R or Square, because it's easier for me to use that for kids to remember. Go ahead and use it. It's very good, and it doesn't have to be broken down that way, but once you use it more frequently, it becomes a part of what you do. Now, my kids know how to do it. I've never since I've gone to high school, I've never used the Square or the SQ3R, but I use the process, and they get it, and it works. Thanks for coming to class today. As usual, go out there and be great. Hey, let's just go out there and teach.